if I could ask for your attention, please, we're going to move on to our second speaker. It's Mr. Simon Kearney. With over 2 decades of experience, Simon's an unparalleled expert in high performance. I'm going to get him to talk about that shortly. He has worked with individuals and teams across a wide range of fields, including sport, business and education. Thanks to his comprehensive performance philosophy, Simon has achieved remarkable results in Australian tennis, athletics, AFL, NRL and NBL. Please welcome Simon.
Thanks for having me, firstly, and I wasn't going to sort of do this, but I thought on the back of Tom's presentation before was sort of storytell a little bit about Readiness and how it started and my journey and all the rest, so it'll all sort of come together. We're going to talk a lot about the psychosocial hazard legislation that's hit our shores already in a couple of states, but it's hitting Victoria early next year, and we'll knock that one out and give you some examples and some help around that sort of scary topic that we're witnessing, and we'll witness a hell of a lot more early next year. But as Rob said, I've been a fitness coach is probably the easiest way to describe. I was at a number of AFL clubs, Melbourne Storm, on the tennis tour with Alicia Mollick and the Davis Cup for about 6 years. My wife and child ended that party because of the 25 weeks a year on the road. Didn't go down too well with the new wife and new child. New wife, my wife. And scary father-in-law too, so I'll be so, as I said, part of my previous life, I call it, was 21, 22 years in elite sport. Part of my role as a fitness coach was knowing the whole player as a whole. So yes, I want to know if their quads are sore, their back's sore, their knees sore, whatever. But also I need to know if they're sleeping or not. I need to know their mental health, which is a massive indicator of performance, and I need to make some really quick decisions, smart decisions based on data, a lot of it, and then obviously more importantly based on communication to manipulate workloads from an individual point of view, but also from a team point of view, and then relay that to coaches and so on and so forth. So my business partner's Jerry Ryan, who owns Jayco and a million other things. Met Jerry when I was head of fitness at Melbourne Storm, just after I do emphasise this, after the salary cap saga. My wage certainly had nothing to do with that one. The brown paper bags I still can't find. So met Jerry there, struck up a really good mentorship. He's almost a father figure, which is built on just genuine chat. I had no idea who he was at the time, and still to this day I find out he's got businesses here, there and everywhere, and I've known him for 13 years. And continued that friendship sort of all the way. I ended up at St Kilda Footy Club as head of sports science and conditioning there. I worked for 3 coaches there at that time, and then got to about mid-2019, and he still won't answer this question, but I'm pretty sure it was my wife. Pretty stubborn. My wife said to Jerry, "Hey, I was burnt out, done. I was, 6.5 days a week for 22 odd years in elite sport, dealing with, in that high pressure environment. Took its toll. Plus trying to be the best, husband and father I could be. Certainly burnt out, not listening to anyone around me. But Jerry was probably one who could get through to me, and father-in-law was another one who could get through to me, and a couple of coaches I've worked for in the past as well. And Jerry said, let's start a business together. What do you want to do? And you certainly don't say no when he says that stuff. And this was literally the conversation we had over a couple of bottles of his Mitchelton Shiraz at the time, just before COVID. And I said, mate, what we do really, really well in sport, which we take for granted, is we proactively assess the holistic well-being of our players really, really well. On that, just filled you in before, is the players will fill out a quick survey a couple of times a week on how they're feeling, and then I would make smart decisions, hopefully, on there to predict injury and so on and so forth, and make sure they're cherry ripe for game day. And so often I would see, we GPS players, so the little GPS monitor sits in there, Guernsey at the back, on game day, same with training throughout the week. I'm taking urine from them 2 or 3 times a week for hydration. I'm taking blood out of their little finger, checking on their CKs, which is an enzyme in the muscle that indicates how sore you are. So a really good objective measure on soft tissue. We live and die by soft tissue injuries in AFL and NRL. Unlike Essendon, we take blood out, we didn't put anything in. Hot topic. And we got every bit of technique, IT tech in the world in the gym to monitor imbalances left and right side. So you'd see players who would be green light on everything, and still weren't getting a kick or performing. And it turns out, these non-physical reasons were having a massive negative effect on their overall performance on game day. So telling Jerry all about this and naming some names and all that, turns out players were in their last year of their contract, had no idea what they were going to do the next year. They were petrified. That's why they're not playing well. They've just got a new baby in the house. Baby's not sleeping. No one in the house is sleeping. Sleep's the number one indicator of your well-being, and we'll chat about that in a sec. So all of these non-physical reasons have a huge implication on performance. We saw in sport, and when we started Readiness, that's certainly the fact, obviously, with performance outside of the sporting sense. So Readiness was born just before COVID hit, late 2019. It's an end-to-end digital platform that proactively assesses well-being across all aspects of well-being. First thing we did was we partnered with Swinburne University Centre for Mental Health, and I wanted Jerry to spend a lot of money. It was his money, which certainly was not mine. Over about 18 months working out what are the main factors that influence our well-being as human beings at work and away from work. And if we are to assess this, intervene, educate and connect these people to experts, we want to make sure we're getting the most bang for our buck. So that's a number of the research parts that we did for Readiness, and we've been alive for a few years. And part of that too, with our platform, we obviously look after businesses with all their well-being, and we'll chat about a little bit more about that coming up. So, as I said, we collect a lot of data through our platform, from all things mental health, physical health, sleep health, workplace health, the whole lot. We've got a really diverse list of clients. We've got white collar, blue collar. We've got lawyers, recruiters, manufacturing, plumbers, sparkies, bakers, you name it. Smallest business we look after has got 3 employees. Largest we look after has got 1,560, I think it is, give or take. So we've got a lot of data there that we can look at and make some smart decisions on and influence positive behaviour. So we'll look at the mental health impact. We'll look at the current state of play across Australia and all our huge diverse list of clients. We'll have a look at where we're heading in the future, and when I say that, early next year, based on what we've been seeing coming out during and coming out of COVID from a mental health point of view. The big one, we'll have a look at the new legislation for psychosocial hazards in the workplace, which is hitting Victoria early next year. And it was supposed to be in July, on July 21, it was supposed to hit this year, but Andrew's put it on the back burner until early next year. That new legislation is alive and well in WA and Queensland now, and it has been since early April. And then any questions you can pop your hand up as we go, but we can sort of chat about that a bit more at the end if you want. Just some stats around the impact mental health has. 45% of people experience a mental health issue some stage of their life. Certainly from a business point of view, what we're seeing now, and what we'll talk a little bit more about once we get the legislation, is the typical work cover claims of $9 grand and 5.5 weeks off is quite impactful on business. Compensation claims and then salary loss there. So that's the latest stats that we've found on the effect mental health has to employees and businesses in the workplace, which is pretty scary. Obviously all this has come off, a lot of it's come off the back of COVID, and it's also, it's heading in the wrong direction certainly, and we'll go through a few of those numbers in a second. So, phones out. We'll have a look at, to answer this question, are you aware, and across the psychosocial hazard legislation, pop your answers in. So there's obviously the current legislation that we'll go through in the next section as well, but this one's the new stuff and the new legislation coming in.
I updated the app or something, it's good.
Oh, I know.
Good. You need more time off, when you get better when you get that.
So over half, no idea, which is actually, you've actually got more idea than with those numbers there. It's a little bit worse out in the street. Okay, so we'll go through this in a second. Okay, so last year we did some, Swinburne University had a look at some research on the current, not the future, so we'll park that for a second. This is the current legislation awareness in Australian organisations. So over 1,000 businesses were surveyed of various levels of, so directors, CEOs through to regular employees, and looking at their knowledge of the physical safety culture, so the degree to which employees perceive their organisation considers physical safety in the workplace important and addresses it adequately. The psychological wellbeing culture, the degree to which employees perceive their organisation considers psychological wellbeing in the workplace important and addresses it, as well as the openness and acceptance around psychological wellbeing issues. And then taking that a step further into what actual psychological wellbeing systems does the organisation have in place, which is certainly where we're heading with next year's legislation, and then overall awareness of legislation requiring businesses to protect their workers from psychological risk. As I said, this is from in the past up until now, not looking at what's coming in the future. So they were the four areas that we had a look at across a really good sample size and a really diverse list of businesses. So even though the numbers are low, we did Tassie 43%, ACT 54. We were looking pretty good there at 40% with Vic in terms of the legislation awareness across the states of the current legislation, and then looking at the hierarchy. So, directors and heads of department up just over 50% were aware of the current legislation, and obviously the further it went down in terms of the org chart, the less that they were aware of it.
So I look at that thinking, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the awareness of the incoming legislation, which is going to hit everyone, is even worse than that. Yeah. So then we had a look at the difference between, remember, the physical safety culture. So the acceptance of that from a physical point of view, physical safety point of view, the psychological wellbeing culture versus what actual psychological wellbeing systems are in place. And clearly the psychological culture and systems are a very poor cousin of the physical safety mechanisms and culture that they've got in place. So across all of the three measures, the highest rated industries were primary production, construction and financial services. So this was, we collated all this early to mid last year. And then the lowest rated industries were manufacturing, admin and amazingly healthcare. And we've got a number of healthcare organisations on, and I can sort of back that up as well.
Can't believe that. I mean, manufacturing, it's all about safety and well-being.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, they were pretty good in the physical stuff, but in terms of the psych side of things, not so good. Yeah.
It's interesting about healthcare as well.
Yeah, healthcare for us was, we were double and triple checking the numbers there, and as I said, they're better now, but early days, certainly the trend with a number of the two of the organisations we had in healthcare, was certainly trending in that way.
Is that the same kind of concept as the plumbing is never done?
Yes, and then job demands is massive, is one of the big ones, and again, this is coming off COVID too. So I mean, I've got a couple of family members in healthcare, and one of them has left the sector and industry just over it completely. Teachers are heading that way. We just launched our primary school program, and we've just partnered with ACHPA, which are the governing body for health, PE and wellbeing teachers, as their one and only wellbeing platform. But we've actually had to introduce our Readiness for Business platform into the school program to look after the teachers as well, because that's trending in the same way as nurses and everything like that. So Yeah, some interesting results there, but again, the take home out of all that is the systems in place from a psychological safety point of view are still really, really poor. And even in hospitality, we've got a number of clients, and again, I've got family members there who, they've got the anti-slip sticky tape that you can get from Bunnings on their, the OH&S come through, and they're making sure as you're going down to the cellar to check their barrels, they've got all that up. Yeah, now I've said to my brother, for example, I said, mate, yes, you need to have all that in place, but what the hell are you doing about your overworked, barista who's been taken from making coffees, given a 3-minute education on how to cook a steak because you're losing staff out in the back office as well to cook meals. So for a while there, it's getting better, but certainly, hospitality was heading in that direction of nurses. It's getting better, but certainly teachers is the big one now in that field.
Simon, when I look at this, I automatically think big, large organisations. But what we're saying is that this applies to anybody with an employee, correct?
Correct. Yeah. As I said, we've got smallest businesses we've got is 3 employees, and again, with the legislation coming in, they don't care if you've got 5,000 or you've got 5. It's kind of like our ethos with Readiness is we treat the human being. They happen to be a plumber or a lawyer or a baker or whatever. So they don't discriminate. That's for sure. This is having a look at, again, the 3 factors of the culture from a physical point of view in the workplace, the culture from a psychological viewpoint in the workplace, and the actual psychological systems in place, again, of the current legislation in place. So the more senior the position, the higher they score their organisation on both physical and psychological wellbeing. So, and I've actually gone out, I'm actually back at, I'm doing a couple of days at Jayco, getting my hands dirty from a return to work point of view and looking after the wellbeing of Jerry's employees there, which has been fantastic. I needed to sort of get my head out of the weeds of the business for a little bit and get back into the real world, which has been good. It's Jerry's like being back in a footy club, but you certainly, you can certainly see when you're spending, 18 to 20 hours a week with the staff, that their knowledge of what is going on from a wellbeing point of view is certainly not as fluent and as obvious as you go up the org chart.
So is this saying that senior leaders in your organisations that you survey think that they're doing a good job, but the employees don't think they're doing a good job?
And it's like anyone where you ask your opinion. If you're responsible for that, you're going to bump it up. If you're a disgruntled employee, you're going to really, and it's your voice, and all of this was de-identified. So in terms of the employees, whatever level they were at, all they did was scan a QR code to answer questions. So no, we didn't know who they were, but we knew their position. So it was all de-identified data, which is really important.
Just one more question on that. So the physical safety culture, for businesses that are almost purely online or where people almost solely work from home, would that be not applicable to them, or would that involve things like, do you sit in a comfortable chair?
And because a lot of the claims from a physical point of view now are, we're all walking around like this now. We need to get back out here. So whether you're sitting at a computer or you're at a warehouse, most things are like this. And so I see at Jayco now, we get a lot of thoracic and neck pain from that. Kids are like this all the time. We're like this all the time. So certainly that's the big one from a physical point of view. The ergonomics of your desk and your height of your chair and all that is becoming even more so, especially if job demands are going up. You're in that position a hell of a lot more. But as we get to the new legislation coming through, the mental health, which can be assigned to that too, if you're in chronic pain the whole time, your mental health does plummet as well, so it's all hand in hand.
I guess I was pointing more to the work from home culture, and maybe you'll touch on this, but what responsibilities do employers have to ensure that the physical attributes of people's working from home environment are acceptable?
So that's a very good point. A lot of businesses now, you do have to look after and at least provide finance and funds for them to set up their desk properly at home. the buck stops if the dog bites them out in the backyard, or they bump their head on the fridge on the way through, and all that stuff. But setting them up desk-wise, seat height, standing desks are huge now. And they're becoming a lot cheaper, which is good too. But a lot of printers, all this type of stuff. So all your home office equipment. But the big one is the stand-up desks, and the appropriate level of desk height, seat height, and all that is on the employer for home business. And they're saving because they're saving money on office space, and as we said before, around that as well. Rob.
My wife's in human resources at one of the banks, and part of their process is an audit. And what they do is send out this questionnaire to those that work from home, and it's effectively tick a box, take a photo, attach it, download it, and send it through. So what type of chair, what's the height of the chair to the desktop, what is your eyesight, all of these different things. You've actually got to pull out a tape measure and take a photo and show all this sort of stuff. That's how they're choosing to manage it. I know it's right.
So how does the audit respond to the Gen Zers who say, I work on my iPad sitting in my bed?
Yeah.
Because I can't get my kids to sit at a desk to do their homework. Right? It's just not the way people work.
One of my employees quite regularly works in a coffee shop or is moving around. She actually does trivia right throughout Melbourne, and so what she'll do is she'll go to the place where she's doing trivia beforehand and work from there. So what control have I got?
It's hard on that one.
Where she puts her laptop.
What we've seen with a number of our clients is the amount of RSI of wrists as well. So the mouse or the wrist support, the little bit.
You can tell
the gel ones. Yeah, so it's just part out as that too.
I don't think it's been tested though yet. I think in court. Phones out again, guys. Now what we're going to do here, scan the QR code. This is I think it's a dozen questions or so. Looking at your holistic well-being, and we'll have a look at the live results in a sec. And this just looks at how are we looking as a group now with our holistic well-being across many aspects of our life.
This is confidential, Simon. It's not an
All de-identified.
To be honest, can
Yeah. And we all, the other thing too is we all look at ourselves in the mirror from front on.
Yeah.
So we know quite good. Yeah.
You're an elite sportsman.
Yep. Good. So the leaders in this organisation keep you motivated and engaged. Does that mean, is that... So the leadership questions in there are, exactly. The leadership, if you are here, obviously answer these, that applies to you as well. There we go.
Financial stress one is there's financial stress of your business, not
Financial well-being, how are you as an individual? As an individual, Yep.
Most of us would be linked though, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Business.
64, we're going up.
I find the question about nutritious food choice, if you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that last...
In your case, Rob, you don't know.
Yeah.
Beg to differ.
Well, we're going pretty well.
Or you don't
70 plus, you're doing well as a group.
So this is the sort of survey that your system,
We'll do, yeah.
it's as simple as this, isn't it? Like
So we validated, we've got, actually I can go through a little bit more at the end, but we know the top factors that, there's 40 factors in total. We know that we really work on the top 5 workplace factors and the top 9 individual factors that have the greatest bearing on your wellbeing. They all have sub-factors underneath that, and part 2 of the research we did with Swinburne was, I said, I want to know what's the weighting towards these factors. So, you know, your perceived life satisfaction is really important on what your well-being is, but from a physiological point of view, sleep is number 1. And for those of you who don't quite believe that, if you've been jet lagged before, you'll understand on cue, you'll understand the importance of sleep. So we've got all our validated surveys. It's like SurveyMonkey on steroids. You can fully customise your questions that suit your staff. You can include pulse checks on your business values, employee engagement. You can make it your own, you can white label it. We've got 500 resources on the platform across all of the topics as well. We've basically gone out and partnered with Beyond Blue and Are You OK and sleep experts, and pretty much we've brought all the resources into the one platform, so it's a one-stop shop for all things wellbeing, but you can fully customise it yourself and put your own resources in there as well and make it your own. So with the backing of science of what we've done with Swinburne, so we're making sure. So we've all, as a team, we're looking at around 66, so 70 plus you're going pretty well with all our weightings that we've got in there. But let's have a look at, so attitude is really looking at resilience, so we're a resilient bunch. Our coping strategies was around, from memory, your knowledge of the positive coping strategies to help you and make you perform is pretty good. Exercise, okay, so we're probably mid-range around there. So, you know, ideally we want to get 30 minutes a day of an elevated heart rate, and how you get that's up to you. Hydration, big one. So, you know, majority of our body is made up of water, and there are a number of ways to get not just water into your system. It's 3 to 3.5 litres for males and 2 to 2.5 for females. But you know, a lot of eating plans. And has anyone heard of Noom? Yeah. So Noom's actually really, really good. It's one of the best weight management apps and programs around. Because it motivates you as you go through. But in terms of its directory of foods in there, it's really, really good. So yes, it's calorie counting, but basically the green light foods in Noom have a high water content. So the body loves a high water content, and that's another a really good way of getting water into your system. But the take home from a hydration point of view, buy 4 or 5 water bottles. Have one at your office desk, one at your home desk, one in the car, one next to your favourite chair at home. Make sure they're filled up and just chip away at it all day, and you'll be blown away at how you will achieve those limits to get that. Stomach feels fuller, accompanied with high fibre and good protein diet as well, with a lot of carbs, and nice, well balanced, and you'll get that. But we're not going to talk too much about nutrition today. Job demands, pretty good. I want to speak a little bit more about that in a second. Leadership, we've got leaders, a lot of leaders I presume in the room. So that is your perception of, well, your leadership and how you lead, and your thoughts on the leadership within the organisation. It probably comes back to, it's a similar thing as we were looking at the awareness of legislation and the awareness of leaders within the organisation on their thoughts on the culture within psychosocial hazards, and physical in there is a lot higher than those further down. Overall life elements was your financial well-being, pretty good. Life satisfaction, 67. Again, we're in the classic burnout stage of the year now, well and truly. And we've probably got 5 weeks to Christmas, give or whatever it is. So really, you know, halfway through October through the end of the year is the classic burnout stage. And we, with all of the data that we see and the trends we see, you certainly see that, you know, comes into, I call it AFL finals time, comes at a good time for those who in Melbourne who like the footy. It's a nice little break for your mind to get away from, depending who you barrack for, of course, but it's certainly that stage of the year is when the classic burnout stage starts hitting. And we see that, as I said, with the data. Mood, we've got a bit of work to do there in terms of mood. Where again, the correlations between that and life satisfaction and job demands and financial pressures is a big one. Nutrition, good. Sleep, we need to do a little bit better. Social support is really important and going quite well. And then the work design, which was job demand, a bit of work to do there. So that there is an example of, just a quick example of what we can look at the room at the moment from a very holistic viewpoint. We've got that times 1,000 with the org dashboards that we produce with Readiness. So you can see de-identified data across your whole of organisation. You can filter via department, division, age, gender, and get live data coming through that's presented better than that, but for your whole of organisation with all the resources and the experts to help in there as well. So,
So if you're a small business and you've got, say, 5 employees, the mean numbers are not so
exactly,
important. But could you, work with your organisation, could you perhaps tap into maybe a bigger database of similar businesses so you can rank your
against
stuff
other,
against
exactly
a wider population?
So we've got 3 baking. So we've got Ferguson Flea Bakehouses, for example, and a number of other smaller bakers as our clients as well. So Steve Blair, the CEO of Ferguson Flea, is all, how are we tracking, against other, and then other manufacturing and blue collar warehouse type businesses. We've got a number of as well. Metal Techs, one of Australia's biggest metal fabricators, we've got as well. For instance, we've got a number of Ray White real estate agents on, Jacobs and Lowell, so there we can always sort of compare through there and how they're tracking. Numbers can be quite similar, but we do this internally, and I've got a really good understanding of a number of the businesses who do their programs really, really well. If you de-identified it, you could pick who's who and how they do it. It's very, very obvious, and more importantly, the interventions to achieve that are really simple, which we'll go through in a second as well. Okay, we want to have a look now at, as I said, we've got a huge pool of data across really diverse list of clients. And at the moment, I had a look at this as much as late last week. What are the pain and trigger points for yourselves and for businesses at the moment? And I'll give you the, top 5, bottom 5, or however you want to look at it, from all the data in a second.
Is that not it?
No.
The first one again.
Sorry.
That doesn't work when it's all right, I can give them anyway.
Now?
Please
Yeah,
wait for the
that's it.
presenter.
Yeah, that's moved on to it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Just quick next.
So what are the pain points and trigger points for businesses? Is it working?
Yeah.
There you go. And think also holistically, take into consideration the survey you just did then as well. Yeah, all good. We're on trend, I think. How are we looking? All good? Okay, so I'll flick through to the next slide. Certain staff cash flow, time management, certainty.
Does the size of the word, Wendy, mean how many times it's... Oh, right.
Yep.
Staff and
So a
burnout,
lot of people have said staff.
work-life balance, sleep, good.
Yeah.
Doing the day, spread, rest. How many here today have staff who are what, hybrid, working from home and in the office. Yep. Interesting to see.
And they complain that the office culture is not the same.
Yep.
Go figure.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you've got cash flow and then cash flow, and there's two, and then you've got finance and another one, so you put money, and then you put all that together, and that's even bigger if you put it all together.
Yeah.
Yes, huge.
Put them there.
Alright, do you want to have a look at the... Oh, that might have changed. Okay, so the top 5 that we've seen of individuals filling this out across all of, this is about 10 months worth of data here. So life elements, which is one of our topics. So financial well-being is the number one, quite significantly from an employee point of view, across any level of the org chart, across any sector, which is leading to a negative well-being.
Is that primarily due to the cost of living crisis that we're all in?
Yeah, cost of living, and I'll get to a little more on that one later on, in terms of financial pressures on businesses resulting in less employees working more and so on. So job demand's another one, is massive. As I said, this is, keep harping back on our diverse list of clients. So we've got a really good spread of sectors as well. So it's not favouring any which one. If anything, we're probably about 40% blue collar, 60% white collar. Sleep, obviously, is the first indicator of stress, and certainly one of the financial well-being questions that we ask is, if you're struggling with finances, it's normally the one thing that prevents you from sleeping or getting off to bed or waking up and not being able to sleep for the rest of the night, is financial well-being. So one of the research we did there was the link between lack of sleep and financial well-being. So again, not surprised to see that, and knowing that sleep is the number one individual factor, or most heavily weighted individual factor that influences your well-being. If that's poor, then it's really hard to get everything else generated. So if you've had, mental health issues in the past, yep, 100%. The first thing docs will try and do is get your sleep right. Now, whether that's done through life changes or chemically done, we can't make too many smart decisions off really, really poor sleep from a cognitive point of view. So, again, not surprised that's in there. Our topic of body is the body's reaction, how the body reacts to stress and anxiety. So again, if sleep's there, body's always pretty much going to be there as well. So when we're assessing body as opposed to exercise and everything else, that's a bit different. You know, how often is your stomach churning, your heart racing, you're sweating, physiological reactions to poor wellness, poor mental health or whatever, all falls under body. So again, it shows you basically the effects of financial wellbeing and job demands really does affect sleep, body and your coping strategies as well. So unfortunately, when the old proverbial shit hits the fan from a wellbeing point of view, a lot of the times when you do know what to do, and again I'll put my hand up here, you do know what to do from your positive coping strategy point of view, you're just in that fog of a mental health that you just, I can't be bothered exercising, I don't have energy because I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating that well, my resting heart rate should be 58, it's about 78, and I'm stressed about this and that, then those positive coping strategies go out the window as well. So that's a look at, they're the top 5 trigger and pain points that we see for employees, employers, across that holistic individual wellbeing. Let's have a look at how do you alleviate those. Just check that one works. Yeah. So what can you do and what should you do to alleviate those? I've given a few hints before. So again, with the data that we've got, we can see what reaction and what outcome occurs when you do something, either for your business, or I'll give a few hints here, or for yourself. I've given a few hints. What can you do?
Why?
Yep. Why?
I know different.
Yeah, this is where I...
That's not very
No, this is a really good point. This is where I argue with our... our researchers on this one.
So they say it's bad.
I have a glass of red every single night without fail. I say to myself and to anyone who wants to listen, the science behind red wine is actually quite good. Don't have 4 bottles of it, but for me it's the act of having a glass of wine, sitting down as, oh, right, do it.
Particularly with someone else.
With someone else,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. There's a difference between that and then slamming 8 Jack Daniels and Cokes up, that's a bit different, but...
Simon, are you going to start promoting caravans next? Or?
And then we're on the Jake. Everyone gets 20% off a day.
I had a camping.
I do say that my wine intake, I did drink wine before.
Yeah.
Bloody Jerry Savage.
Set up a camera as a testimonial.
That's because you're drinking good wine.
It's good, these are good. Very good. So our self-awareness here is really good at this work. So there's a difference though about knowing what to do and actually doing it.
Robert, is that you?
What was that one?
Watch the 2023 Grand Final.
That's gotta be.
You know what? As stupid as this sounds, that's a positive coping strategy. It's all around your mindset and what you think and do. So many people have said to me, and I'm in this boat, I cannot meditate. Like it's just not in my DNA. I cannot do it. I've got general anxiety. I've been medicated for anxiety for 15 years, and unfortunately, I think I've passed it on to one of my kids. And I'm so-called expert in this, but it's just racing brain. Always, when I'm into something, it is good luck trying to get my attention on it. I'm all over it, which helps with high performance and what I've done, but Christ, it has its negatives as well. So I cannot sit there and effing well meditate. It's not going to happen. Sorry, I'm institutionalising sport.
But surely these are cured.
And exactly, yeah.
Like the attention spans are just fine.
Exactly, yeah. So my meditation, or what I call mindfulness, or your recovery program that's suited for you, and that's why we've got 500 resources on Readiness, because everyone's different. Mine's, oh God, I'm only 44, but I love gardening. Knees shot so I can walk for an hour with a dog. I can't run anymore. Surfing, because it's non-weight bearing, I love the water. So that's my meditation. And I was mad Essendon growing up. I've got on Saved, on Foxtel, I've got the 85 premiership. I was only 6 at the time, but I just remember the 93, the Baby Bombers and 2000 and all that. So, Rob, I'm with it. Yeah, you do whatever makes mindfulness and your recipe for recovery and switching off from work. Just do what works well for you. There are negative coping strategies like excessive alcohol and drug taking and obviously all the rest. But Smiling Mind are actually one of our partners. We send a lot of our clients access to their apps, like we do about 40 others. It's a bit of they've kind of cornered themselves in that market because meditation is not for everyone. Being able to lie there and listen. My daughter can do it, my wife can do it, but don't be put off if that's just not what you are. I've got a great mate. Puts his Lycra on and away he goes for 2 hours on the bike, playing golf. It's what makes you relax. That for me, that's your recovery. So I always like to sort of say that when I speak to people, meditation's not for everyone. So as I said before, we can see what the stresses are from an individual wellbeing point of view, but just as good, we can see what has the biggest impact on swinging that back the other way. And no surprise, sleep's number one. Your coping strategies of exercise, nutrition and hydration. I mean, this is why people ram it down your throat, but these are controllables. So you can, at the end of the day, with support from other people and with guidance, have some control in your exercise. You need half an hour a day of an elevated heart rate, well-balanced diet, and work on your hydration. Life elements, social support is a massive one, which is what we're all starved of during COVID. So I would have liked to have seen what the percentage or the weighting of that was social support pre-COVID. I don't think it would have, I think we've just been starved of it for so long, for a couple of years, especially down here in Victoria. But, when you're not feeling great, just get around people. And that's one of the things that we're seeing with we asked a question before around, is your workforce hybrid? You know, if try and get them in the office for a few days a week if you can. We certainly, during COVID, when we were onboarding organisations, got a number of examples of this. When we're onboarding an organisation, we'll usually drip feed. So at the moment, actually, we're doing with Victorian Jockeys Association. We're drip feeding about 200 of the jockeys on Readiness now. I put 40 on this morning. We'll wait a week, we'll put another 40 on. We do that with organisations as well. They put their marketing department on 1 week, get them set up, then we'll do another one. Certainly the second year of COVID, you know, Andrews would come out on a Sunday night from memory and go, rightio, Wednesday we'll game on. And we thought, rightio, they're saying this will be a 10-day or it could be a 16-weeker like we saw on a few times there. Our phones and our ops team would bloody go on berserk on Monday with, we'd be mid-onboarding organisations, drip feeding them on, and business owners, directors, HR, culture and wellbeing ringing up saying, bugger the drip feed, get them all on now because we want to be able to check in on them, not check up, but check in on them while they're at home. So when you've got a lot of employees working from home, having the ability to, from a tech point of view, jump on, we've got a buddy system and a few other things, but you can check in on them and their wellbeing from a very holistic point of view if they're working at home, when you're not having those really meaningful conversations and contact points throughout the week in the office. But certainly, yeah, if you can be around people, doesn't need to be colleagues, but if you can be around family members and those you love, just when things aren't going great, or you know when things aren't going great for people, that's why. They may not want it, but just get around them.
Do you think, sorry, I was going to say, do you think there's an issue with a cohort of young people who are really feeling out young adults who miss that there's a stage in life when young people develop social skills, right? And I just sense there's a sleeping, there's a whole cohort there working their way through the system that probably isn't obvious yet, certainly not in the work context.
So we haven't seen
maybe in 5 or 6 years.
Exactly, 100%. Like you look at, actually, my sister's kids, for example, she's got twins. Their first 2 years of prep in grade 1 were 20 and 21. Kids are hitting grade 2 and they're getting introduced to their school friends, like horrific, horrible. So from that connection point of view there, we've had a number of clients who had met each other for the first time after 2 years, face to face. So we haven't seen the full outcome of COVID yet, and I don't think we're going to see for a little while, especially with the next generation coming through. We had a good heads up from government midway through 2021. We were just about to finish our research with Swinburne, and we knew coming out of COVID with the mental health, something has to happen, which was good leading to legislation, which we're talking and said. And with the research that we've got, we've got 5 leading workplace factors that influence your wellbeing, but there's another 5 under each of those. We've got sub-factors underneath there. So when we knew what the legislation and the government are going to be assessing and intervening on and disciplining on, we were a good big sigh of relief sort of at the back of that going, thank God we're covering that and more, because something positive from a wellbeing point of view at work or away from work has to come out of this COVID thing, and also in schools as well. So, good point. I don't think we haven't seen it yet. It's coming. Yeah.
There was a short mini-series on Netflix. I haven't seen it, but one of my students told me about it. Where they studied societies that have very close social networks, and that on average they live longer. So I thought that
social
was
supports you.
Yeah.
Attitude for us with our factors is resilience, basically. So again, no surprise there. The more resilient you are, you'll be able to, and that's something, you can be born with, but you can certainly train and work on as well. Leadership, now the big one from an organisation, leadership, culture and communication was a huge one as well in terms of what you can control and alleviate those trigger and pain points as well. So what can you do from a leadership point of view, a culture point of view within the organisation? But the big one is communication, and what we see with a number of our leaders, of our clients, is how quickly and how you can put out small fires that can end up being big fires from a mental health point of view and wellbeing point of view by just communicating and keeping everyone up to date with what's going on, whether that's face to face or via an app as well. So when the proverbial hits the fan, individually or as a group, that's what we need to focus on that we've seen. Okay, so where are we heading? Pre-COVID, mental health issues was about 1 in 5. So we're looking up till about 2019. Currently it's 1 in 4. Going forward, they're predicting 1 in 3 from an individual point of view. There's been it's really timely. Rob, I was about to text you last night. Paul Guerra on the news was saying, so there's been a $1 billion increase in WorkSafe psych claims this year alone. What happens when that happens is premiums go through the roof, especially after already premiums have gone up this year. So all of this will, those arrows have come out the wrong way. So 40% increase, which is about $1 billion increase in work cover psych claims this year alone. What we're seeing is businesses are having to tighten the purse strings, decrease employees, which then same amount of workload goes up from an individual point of view, and the psychological and financial stress goes up with those employees as well. So that's the sort of trend that we've been seeing there. And which looks at the, we mentioned at the start, there's the averages for a typical work cover claim, for any compensation that needs to be paid out, and then replacing and covering a worker there, they're the averages in terms of weeks and money. Prediction for 2024, it's certainly not going to get any better. 1 in 3, unfortunately. So how do we deal with all this? I sort of go back to my old sporting days. I've had one of the biggest blues I've ever had with a colleague was a bloke by the name of Craig Bellamy, which you might know is one of the scariest men alive. Love Ballygate, he's a champion man. But we lost a player to a quite significant player before the 2011 final series to a quad injury, which is about a 6-weeker. We played him in the prelim and said about 50 prayers at the time and just to get him through. We got through, but he may as well not have played. But I saw this coming from a mile away with all of our indicators of what's going on. So we should have nipped it in the bud before it got any bigger. Craig wanted to keep going anyway. Long story short, coach always wins. Player was rolled out that week, did his quad. Nipping things in the bud nice and early is what we should be about in that proactive mindset. So whether that's for yourself or you're seeing trends in your organisation, in certain departments, get onto it before it becomes too big. And you know that internally yourself on how you're feeling. So try and, if you see the trends that are happening, let's try and nip it in the bud now before things blow up too much. From that analogy with that player, Cooper Cronk, was that. We need to be holistic. So you'll see, hopefully, with what we've done today, and I haven't touched too much on the nuts and bolts of readiness, but the influence from work you bring into your own life, and the influence of your individual life or away from work you bring into work. So we're very, very holistic in what we can do and what we do. Yes, I've seen that from 20 plus years in sport and the effect it has on performance, and it's no different out in the real world as well. So treating, I think that's why we've got such a really good diverse list of clients, is we treat you as human beings. You just happen to be in that sector and in that level within that sector. So, and a lot of that comes back as leaders to communication and opening doors there. And if we don't like it, well, we're going to have to do it anyway because this legislation's coming in. As I said, it's been, we'll break that down now, but that's it's alive in Queensland and alive in WA, and it has been for 4 to 6 months. As I said, we were supposed to have it here in Vic in July, but it's coming, we're told, the first quarter next year. So park all that research and that case study we did before. The numbers are pretty bad there when they went looking at that. It's even worse now, and certainly that poll we took there before was probably 60% of us had never heard of it. So the new psychosocial hazards in the workplace legislation, so probably easier. As of April 1st, 2023, all Queensland and Western Australian businesses need to have the highest practical care possible for the psychological health of their employees or risk of significant penalties, on top of increasing costs and employee downtime, decreased efficiency and time off. So, was it 2 years ago, a barista
There's certainly one in Hawthorn. The one I'm thinking of is the one in Queensland before all these hazards came in. She suicided in the letter there, and her friends, suicide letter, and her family and friends were saying was overworked, boss wasn't listening to me, bullied and harassed in the workplace. Directors, one went to jail for about 18 months. Business got $500,000 fine. I've got 2 or 3 more examples of that, and that's before this legislation came in. So I was actually talking to Ian before, as Rob can probably explain, I only met him today, but his whole world and job is around this new legislation that's coming in. And certainly what I'm hearing from Victorian Chamber of Commerce and government, and what Rob was reiterating there, and our psych and counselling partners, they are going to get some, regardless if you've got 3 employees or 1,500, they'll be looking for some scalps pretty early next year to make, again, sporting example, there might be a new rule coming in for head-high contacts in round 3 of AFL. Well, round 4, someone does it. It's normally might have been a 2-week suspension. They'll give you 6 just to, stamp it out. So they'll be doing something similar early in the new year, and they'll be looking for some scalps. So what is it? It's a move widely tipped to be followed by all Australian states. It firmly places responsibility on business directors to dutifully manage the work environment, interaction and job design to reduce the impact of prolonged stress from a psychological point of view. So making sure you're proactively, and we'll go through this 4-step process. We've made it really simple for all our clients. Assess what's going on, identify the hazards, so get some feedback from staff. Assess the risks through, we've got dashboards, and we'll go through this in a second. Control the risks via experts, via resources. Again, though, saying that, the first 12 to 18 months, on majority of the cases, they will be a bit lenient as long as you know that you are actually doing what you should be doing. You have the highest practical care front of mind. You haven't just pinged up the Beyond Blue phone number with a piece of fruit, in the staff kitchen. That's not nearly enough anymore. We need to go through this 4-step process to do that. We've made that really, really simple and easy for everyone. So, as you can see, not many people know what it is and what it's about and when it's coming, but we can take you through that now. So, step 1, identify the hazards and the risks within your workplace. So, as I said before, we had an idea that this would be we'd be coming. This legislation would be coming in. Fortunately, the factors that we assess that are backed by science and validated, but you could also customise for your own business and how you ask the questions, how you do it, we can completely do. You need to seek regular feedback. So it's not the quarterly engagement survey that takes 20 minutes to fill out. Majority of our clients are a 47-second, on average, survey once a week. You can do it twice a week. You can do it, twice a month. That's still being proactive. We've obviously aligned it with the hazards that are in there. So, work design, job demands, leadership, supervisor support in the workplace, the culture. We actually look at around 15. They'll be assessing sort of 5 or 7. There's different ways and different terms of that, but we've well and truly covered all those. So basically, being able to assess regularly how your employees are feeling. We've gone a step further and added a buddy system in there as well. So not everyone wants, a lot of people want de-identified and they don't want anyone seeing their data. If they think redundancies are coming up or my boss knows that I'm really struggling, I might lose my job, you can self-assess, no one sees your data. Business owners and managers see de-identified at all dashboards. But if you want that human connection on your wellbeing journey, you can nominate a buddy. They will see your data. It can be someone internal, external, messaging system. Hey Rob, feeling crap. I'm not, I'm overworked. Can we grab a coffee at 2 o'clock? You've got a messaging system in there as well. So getting both that human support and through means of tech is the way to go. So identifying what's going on, assessing the risk. So as I said before, gathering all your data points. You'll see how we did before on just it's called a headless survey. Keep hitting refresh, the live data's coming through. So from an individual point of view, you can track how you're going, but from an org point of view, which is super important, you can track how all of your staff are feeling across all workplace factors or individual factors. You can choose to filter via department, division, age, gender, but again, if you've got small employees, you can take that out to improve that de-identified.
aspect of it. So here is, this gives you the opportunity to, as I said, nip things in the bud nice and early and act on things that are going on. It's not every 3 months you're getting all this data coming through weekly. And we're taking that whole, last thing we want is employees well-being dropping because of the well-being program that you're running in the organisation, and they're scared that, what's the boss going to think? We can take all that out of it. Control the risk. So again, this is where it comes in to take the best action you can. Saying I didn't know this legislation's coming in or I didn't know won't fly. So as long as you seem to be doing and trying your best is a way to go. And that's where we've got 40 odd partners, 50 odd partners actually, who are experts in the field across all of those factors. As I said before, we bring all those partners and all that, all those resources into the one place, so it's a one-stop shop for all things wellbeing. You see that job demands might be poor and heading in the wrong direction. Well, we've got over 40 resources on improving job demands in the workplace from an individual point of view, an organisation point of view, plus we can get experts in there to do presentations for you and assist you with that. Behaviour change needs to occur at the individual department and all levels. So again, our breakdown of all the dashboards can take you through all of that. And it's rinse and repeat, really. It's review those control measures. As I said, don't do it twice a year. A lot can happen there. Going through steps 1 to 3, again, regularly. We've got a lot of clients now who are rewriting the position descriptions of HR and wellbeing staff to include monitoring of the readiness data. Most of our clients now are including readiness as their wellbeing offering to their staff in their contracts. So again, you can imagine your blue-collar middle-aged males going, what a load of rubbish, I don't need to fill a survey out. Toughen up. To get your way around that, you can switch surveys off, you can switch buddy system off, all the resources and connections to EAP. So our EAP partner, for example, you're in within 48 hours, you're not waiting 4 to 6 weeks. It's all done on the platform with between 6 a.m. and 11 p.m, for example. So accessibility is really important. From a business point of view, especially with the legislation, if you've come out and you've said, okay, this is our wellbeing offering, it's in your contract, at the end of the day, it's up to the individual whether they actually activate their account or look at it. But if you've gone that extra step and done that, at the end of the day, you can lead the horse to water, you can't make a drink. And that's where a bit of the grey area comes in. But you've done everything in your power to proactively look at and assess, intervene, educate your employees. And that's it. Any questions? So it's a scary topic. We've just tried to make it not so scary and simple. Yeah.
We've got one question up the back there, Murray Smith.
I'm interested in understanding the psychological safety or avoiding the hazards in the workplace. If you're then striving for a high-performing team, one of the dysfunctions of a high-performing team is avoiding conflict. How do you then, and certainly from your experience in high-performing teams, that it can look pretty brutal from the outside. How do you then measure that in a way that makes sense for the organisation?
Yeah, good point. One of my best 3 to 4 years in terms of culture and performance was at Storm, and they're well renowned as being the best in Australia. I think they've won 6 years running of best culture organisation. What it comes down to is the leaders there treat their staff exactly like they do the players. And you've forever seen kids of staff members and players in and around the club. It's just, you feel safe in there, and you get to a point where, for example, we would play, I'm playing Broncos up at Brisbane at Suncorp on a Friday night, for example. Well, I need to get all the results from GPS and the players update to Craig by 8 a.m. the next morning. I don't do that because it's my job. I do that because I don't want to let Craig down and I don't want to let the team down. So that's a very hard thing to do in a very controlled environment in sport. Collingwood had it in about 08 through to 011, that sort of culture as well. it's hard enough to do that and takes a couple of years, I think, to do it in a controlled environment in sport. You can multiply that by 3, I reckon, out in the real world where you don't have that much control on people. But for me, it reinforces the importance of your leaders within the organisation and the decision makers. I personally think need to have empathy and communication and well-being knowledge as part of their PDs in there, because it just shows that for me is just such an important factor of putting those sort of fires out early, or ultimately getting that culture going where you want to do it to improve the performance of the organisation and you don't want to let your colleagues down, as opposed to you have to do it because it's your job. And we learnt pretty early at Readiness where we didn't have the ability to switch off surveys or make that de-identified data more de-identified and safer for them to speak up. What you sort of see now, I saw in sport so often is, especially in all male environments, for example, people will speak up and express their feelings on an app more than they will probably talking, but then you want to make that environment as safe as possible for the outcome of that data or that knowledge to be a one-on-one conversation where you feel safe to talk up and you can turn up to work in that environment. And that's ultimately what all this legislation is about. A lot of it, as I said in those factors before, in terms of alleviating those stresses, what came out in the wash, as I said, was leadership, culture and communication. And that's us.
Which is what we're going to do right now. I'm concerned about everyone's hydration levels. And we need to put your hands together and thank Simon. Before we then move